Welcome to the CT Sports Talent Show. My name is Christopher Saunders. I'm pleased to have on with me from the Wheeler Boys Basketball Program, second year with the program. Coach Bailey's with me. Coach, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me, Chris. I appreciate your time, to talk with me.
For people who may not know, Wheeler is a part of the ECC, and as I've talked to many coaches within that, within the league, one of them being Ben DeSaunier, who's a assistant coach at Killingly, coaches the baseball team as well. They're known as the quiet corner, and I think a lot of times people in the ECC in general, kind of the teams, right? Like the NFAs, the Ledger, some of the other schools are kind of mentioned quickly. The St. Bernards, they just won a title last year, but some teams forget, or some people rather forget about the other teams that are within that league. One of them being Wheeler. So before we go any further, where is Wheeler located exactly?
Wheeler is located just northern of Stonington and the border of Rhode Island. Actually, it does border in some of its property lines, Rhode Island as well. So it's located right next to Westerly, Rhode Island. So we are in the bottom right corner, sharing that space with Stonington. Now, some people think that, oh, North Stonington's just the north of Stonington, as in the same town, everything like that. But two different towns, very similar communities. A lot of our youth sports play together. So there is the Little League system, there is the youth football system where they are called Stonington, but a lot of our middle schoolers and young individuals play football with Stonington, but it is two different communities.
Now, where, as far as the town is concerned, because I know, the Waterbury schools where I broadcast, there's a lot of schools that have over 1,000 or more in terms of boy enrollment. Now, Wheeler, from your smile, I'm assuming there's not 1,000 kids. There may be less than 100 boys in your school. Maybe, correct?
I believe officially it's just over 100, but it's not 110. So I believe our official number, I believe the CIC has this at 107 boys.
Okay, so that's got to make some things tough. I mean, again, only second year with the boys basketball program, but a lot of the kids, and I know that every school kind of has their own little group where, or not little, some maybe bigger than others as far as playing athletics. But is Wheeler kind of that athletic school, or is it kind of like split?
It's definitely a great academic school. I not only coach there, but I teach there as well. So I'm in the classroom with the children, and they're kids. They work hard in the classroom, and there are bouts of athleticism that we have throughout. The best thing about Wheeler is our athletic director Ellen Turner actually has done a phenomenal job with the co-op system that the CIC allows. So our football program, we co-op with Griswold. They play as the Griswold Wolverines, but we have Wheeler kids that were part of that playoff run. One of my forwards was a tailback or wingback, as I should say, in the double wing for Coach Wilcox. We have, we're in the swimming co-op, we're in the girls hockey co-op. So we have a bout of athletes that play different sports, but no one necessarily considers us an athletic school, until they come to say, "Oh, let's go play them." So we definitely have that mix for sure.
Now, looking at what you guys have been able to do this year, I mean, obviously the winning record being, I think, the number 9 seed in Division 4, if I recall, and you guys have your first playoff game in terms of the state tournament. That starts tomorrow, correct?
Correct.
So you'll be playing Plainville, which again, you may have to, or actually, no, does Plainville come to you, correct?
Plainville comes to us. Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
so they got to take the long drive all the way up there, okay, or down there, depending on where they're
Down
coming.
there, I
Yeah.
believe. Yeah, they're a little northern if you put it in that
Mhm.
horizontal latitude.
So with that, and just kind of reflecting, because I know you've had a couple days since the division. Now, you guys are in Division 3 or 4?
We are in four, but our tournament is with three as well.
Okay, so for the ECC, you won Division 4.
We won Division 4 outright versus our teams in the regular season. Correct.
Okay, so being able to do that and being able to have some time to reflect and such, are you not, I don't want to say shocked, but looking at kind of what you've been now, being there now for 2 seasons, did you expect to see this that quickly?
No, you never kind of expect that turnaround and everything. I think it kind of really comes down to I had a relationship with the boys, you know, as being their teacher and as being a coach in the school. And I actually, you know, previously of these last 2 years, I was actually a head coach at Lyman Memorial. So for 2 years, I was actually an enemy or a divisional opponent versus them. So we had played them, I believe, if you count the COVID year,
Mhm.
3 times during my 2 years at Lyman. And it kind of turned into that, you know, rivalry, you know, Mr. Bailey versus us, everything. But you never kind of expect that turnover. And I think I didn't think to be, you know, after year two, 16-0 in Division 4, you know, you always want to be there, you know, because that way nobody could take it from you. But with this special group we have of juniors and seniors that I was able to mold last year, and they were able to understand everything, it was definitely a positive outcome.
Now, when you think about just obviously being in Division 4, every division, and there's 5 divisions, so it's always going to be competitive no matter where you are. But looking at you guys being in Division 4, I know a lot of people have talked about, oh, the potential Shoreline matchup, I think round 3 or round 4, whatever it is, between Morgan and Cromwell. Now, Cromwell won last year, so they're trying to get back there again. Obviously, they got the Victor Payne kid, and I think his younger brother plays as well. Payne's,
Vaughn.
or yeah, I think Victor scored probably like 30, 40 points, whatever his last game was, to help them win the title. Something crazy. He showed up at Mohegan too. But the point is, you're on the side of Morgan. So depending on how things go, you'll have to get through, unless something crazy happens, you would have to go through them to be able to continue your run. Now, obviously, you're not looking towards past the one team you have coming up in Plainville, but has that crossed your mind at all looking at your bracket?
You know, we knew after the Cromwell Innovation game that, you know, if Cromwell were to win, that Morgan would jump to that 1 seed based off of points, and Cromwell would be that 2. You know, no Morgan's sitting there, and again, never looking past anybody, because you know we have to be able to take care of business. But the advantage is that we have already faced Morgan, so I took it upon myself this year to create a schedule that was very difficult, I thought, with opponents from all over the state, including New Milford, including Morgan, including Summers, Ellington, everything. So, you know, to kind of have that ability to, you know, if we get that matchup, that I think we'll feel pretty comfortable in the sense of that we know what they have, we know what they run, we've seen them, you know, we've kept our eye on them and Cromwell as well, because those, you know, those two coaches, Frank Rossi and Coach Pigeon, I mean, those two are a class act, great coaches, and it's just kind of, you know, one of those things when you're a coach and all it is basketball and basketball season. It doesn't matter what game's on. You're looking to watch something, whether it's a former, you know, player, or it's a scout, or it's, hey, this is a great matchup. Like Friday night, I watched the Shoreline Championship. So, you know, I watched that game, and it was just great to see. And it wasn't to say, hey, we could face Morgan, or hey, we could face Cromwell. It was, hey, these are two really teams going at it for the championship in a rubber match.
And you seeing Morgan back on December 29th in the favor of Morgan, I would think in some ways it was good that your players and yourself was able to see them in person. A, because you never know down the road, yada, yada, yada. But I think also, too, to kind of get that experience of, okay, we know that they are going to be good. So you want to see how your team looked against not the competition, because obviously everyone you play is competitive in and of itself. But a team like Morgan being at a little bit of a higher level, you wanted to see where you matched up with them.
Yeah, and you know, we would be going into their gym if that was the case. So we've already been there. We've played 2 games, so it's not necessarily, of course, yes, they do have home court advantage, but it's not like we're coming in and we're playing on something we've never played before. You know, that's why when we played Waterford this year, you know, we wanted to go to Waterford, you know, and because we thought the semifinal game, you know, the Christmas tournament, we wanted to go to Morgan because we wanted to face not only, you know, great competition in Brantford, Morgan, everything like that, but it was to get ourselves experience on the road, and to take those chances and say, hey, you know, you never know what's going to happen in Division 4. If we're a low seed, we got to be able to be battle tested.
Now, if you are able to win your game, then you'd have to play either Sheehan or Northwestern. If Sheehan wins, they got to come to you. If Northwestern wins, then you then have to come up and you may actually have to pass Waterbury to go towards Northwestern. And again, you talk about a hike and a drive, put some ear pods in or your Dre Beats or whatever, and just take a nap for about an hour and a half because it's going to be a drive. But just thinking about kind of that aspect as well, have you had any long drives also too to kind of mimic what could be potential a state tournament run having to be on the road?
Yeah, so I took it upon myself to contact Coach T at New Milford. So we took a 2 hour bus drive on opening night, December 14th, and we drove all the way to New Milford to play them and kind of emulate that. And that was the exact reason people, why are you going to New Milford? Are you crazy? Not anything to have to do with basketball in the game, but do you know how long that drive is? Do you know a lot of, and I said, yes, I do know. And I said, but we have to understand we could be going to Wamogo. We could be going to Litchfield County. We could be going down to down through the shoreline. We could be going up to the NCCC in Ellington. And we could be going to, Bridgeport. We could be going to all of these schools. So why not learn to play after a long bus ride? You can't shelter these kids. You can't, spoil these kids and say, hey, I'm going to schedule 20 home games. That's not how it works. So we did take it upon ourselves for that New Milford game, specifically for the long drive and saying, hey, we've been here before. Now that was, of course, on, their dime and how they beat us in overtime. But we've been in that situation where long bus ride, we got to be able to check in.
Now, over the course of this season, what have you seen from your team that gives you confidence that there's a potential? Now, has Wheeler ever made a run? Have they ever won a state tournament game? Have they ever won states in general? Fill me in on that.
So they've never won a state title. There have been multiple teams in history that have won a state game, have hosted a state game, and kind of even some teams, I believe it was, I want to say the 1997 team went to the quarterfinals or went even to the semis. I can't remember. I would have to double check my spreadsheet. So they even have advanced, to the quarters and semis as we did last year. We saw a very good Portland team last year in the quarterfinals. Coach David Bradbury does a great job. He had a great group, and they dominated, the bracket and dominated the game. So there has been some success of recently with us, of course, yes. So we are looking to continue that.
Is there a possibility as you look into this, because we were talking about some of the teams you could face and such, thinking about like the Shoreline, I think in Division 3 or maybe it's Division 2, there's like 14 or 15, maybe 17, I have to go back and count as far as CCC teams, right? And you think about that gauntlet. And even Division 1, 2 is a heavy hitters as well. Division 4 is kind of sprinkled out to a certain degree. You talked about various schools from all the way from the NCCC to Litchfield County to the Shoreline, so on and so forth. So being able to now, as you go into your game tomorrow, how are you able to kind of not I don't want to say think about, but knowing in the back of your mind about, okay, all these potential options, but we got to get through this game. And then if we're able to win that, then it's back to the drawing board or trying to prepare and make sure these kids are ready.
Yeah, and that's a tough thing. So the last 3 weeks, me and my coaching staff have, traveled. I mean, I traveled to Hartford one night, traveled up 395, looking at all these different opponents before anything was even set in stone. You're playing the guessing game. You're playing hey, if they win this amount of games and this many points, they could be here. But if we do that, so the last 3 weeks, we've seen a good amount of teams, and that's all just guessing games. So to kind of have that in the back of our mind is, being able to scout early and going to physically see teams. We always have, the network and, YouTube, but it's just something about that personal scout that gives you so much more. You're feeling in the game, you're understanding, you're watching the coaches, you're watching the players' demeanors, everything like that, instead of trying to guess what's kind of going on in the stream. So it's definitely a hard concept to wrap your mind around, but we've done as a staff a good job. And we know that, every single night we got to play our best, because with Division 4, I believe that's the only full 32 bracket team. So you're getting the CCCers, you're getting the NCCCs, you're getting the Shoreline. You could get, an SEC team, an ECC team. So it's very diverse in our entire conferences, but we've done a good job of at least wrapping our heads around, who we could see, who we might see, and everything like that. But I know we're just kind of focused on that Plainfield game.
And we got two NVL teams. We got St. Paul 14, also got Woodland at 30, and they got to play Innovation. And again, just looking at those two NVL teams, I mean, it's, I'll be seeing St. Paul tomorrow, not to broadcast because I have the girls' game prior. That's the Class M quarterfinal. The boys are
Oh,
playing a back-to-back. Both teams, Suffield's going to be coming down. So that'll be a fun game for the St. Paul boys to try to win against a very good Suffield team. And obviously, Woodland being a 30 seed, a lot of people are probably not even thinking about them, but I can tell you, and I haven't seen an innovation, so again, I don't know what they have, but if Woodland's on in terms of their shooting, they don't have a lot of size, but if they're able to shoot effectively, they're going to be tough, because then you got to match them. They got one kid, a guard, Asatura, who averages over 20, 23 points a game. His father was the first coach at Woodland when the school opened up, I think in 99, 2000, if I recall. And again, they don't have a lot of size, but they can shoot. They beat Career Academy, which was, again, in the top 10. They beat them early or midpoint of the season. So you never know. They could pull an upset, they maybe not. You never know. Purdue lost last year, lost the last 3 years to lower seeds.
that is correct. And anything can happen in March. That's why they call it March Madness. It's crazy, it's chaos, it's seeding. So you see it all the time. I mean, in last year's Division 4, it was Cromwell and it was Ellington, and not to say that was the 1 and the 2, because you never get matchups like that. In Division 5, it was Windsor Locks and Chippewa. Chippewa was a 7 seed. And there, like, you accounted to that St. Paul Catholic team. We scrimmaged them this year. That is a phenomenal team. That coach does a phenomenal job. So we, even that in our preseason when we scheduled, we said, yep, we want to go face that, thinking, at the time that, they were going to stay up in Division 3 and we were going to be in Division 5, not thinking that we could possibly see them, but we know what they bring, and that's a hard-nosed team. Again, Woodland, didn't know about that, but I think they can give a run. Anybody can give a run, especially, if all the pieces are firing.
I mean, you think about what you and I were just talking about a couple of years ago. Naugatuck was a 1 seed, played Wilbur Cross, I think was somewhere in the 20s or something like that, maybe in the teens. But a lot of people were thinking Naugy was going to make a run. What happened in Naugatuck? They were terrible and they lost to Wilbur Cross. Now, I think Cross lost the next game, but the point was made that it doesn't matter if you're a 1 seed, a 30 seed, or a 2 and a 20 or whatever, you can lose in any given night. I mean, we've seen crazier things.
We have, and I even remember, I believe it was my time at East Lyme when I was coaching under Jeff Bernardi. We had a matchup, and a very good team that we thought we would make a run. And, I'm trying to think who it was. I believe it was an Enfield team, very good Enfield team came in. They had an unbelievable player, Dre Archer, phenomenal. And we thought that, we had a game plan, everything like that. And they must have shot, I want to say, 40% from 3. I mean, it was unbelievable. So again, any given night, any single piece can truly make a difference.
And Minardi's now at St. Joe's, and he's got to travel up to Torrington to go all the way, again, basically Litchfield County, to have to go see the Torrington Raiders. And I think Jeff's been now at St. Joe's for 2 years, right?
Correct. Yes.
All right. So same time as you as far as being with Wheeler. So that's pretty cool. I know both of you, obviously, coaching alongside at East Lyme, have a very good relationship. And who knows, maybe you both can find ways to your victories in your first round games. But Coach, I appreciate you coming on. Always a pleasure. Great to be able to match the phone number and the name to a face. Obviously, Phil Kwan has always filled me in on you and always spoken very, highly of you. So best of luck, dude.
I appreciate it, Chris. Thank you so much for having me anytime. And again, your support and your sports broadcasting. It's phenomenal for not only coaches, players, your work that you do to keep, the amateur sport, alive is awesome.
I appreciate it. Hey, if you're at Mohegan this time, make sure you come down and say hello because I'll be
Oh,
there
I will.
all day Saturday and Sunday.
I will be there regardless. Hopefully, I'll be in a suit and tie, but if not, I'll definitely travel down those stairs to come find you.
Appreciate you. That wrap thing up on the CT Sports Talent Show. So next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut's out. I'm a Jerry Find them all. Enjoy the show, everybody, and be well.